I just spent the last 100 days transforming myself into the Geo Archon, Zhongli. Now my goal with this video is to not disappoint the entire Genshin fanbase, but the problem is I only have 100 days to recreate a 45-second video. For context, my Gojo video was 52 seconds and took me over 200 days, so I'm definitely in for a bit of a challenge. To even think about starting the video, I need to find a good cosplay, and that's where I run into a few problems. A minor issue being the cost. And remembering the 100-day limit, my cosplay is going to take at least 35 days to get here, and that's over a third of my entire time limit. So my original plan already needs a few changes. And speaking of original plan, here's what I had set up. Zhongli takes his hood off, makes a shield, and blocks the attack. He then summons a bunch of pillars in a row, and they go hit Osile in the mouth, or one of his mouths. It cuts. Boom. Close-up of Astaha's body, then it pulls out and shows him shooting an energy attack. Osile dodges it, and then Zhongli tells Astaha, "Let me cook." He rises up in the air and Zhong maliciously dodges an Osile blast while raising his hand. Once he closes his fist, his Vortex Vanquisher is summoned through the clouds. Next, a close-up of his eyes while he says, "I will have order." And then he chucks it at Osile, pretty much decimating the entire area. Oh, and Osile. Since I don't have my cosplay yet, I'm gonna start with making the characters we need. And some good news is the team at Genshin actually sent over the monsters and the weapons that we needed. Bad news is they're actually made for the game and we're trying to go for live action. So I'll pull out my best texturing and modeling skills and get to work. Now really quickly, texturing can be a very time-consuming process. Even after being given the Astaha model, I had to spend over a day texturing him so that I could film him up close without disappointing the entire audience. And that was just time that I don't have. It's really satisfying to see something go from fake and flat to all detailed and realistic. And this is how Astaha is turning out so far. And now before I can make them move, I need to give them a place to move in. And this environment was a complete 180 from my last one. Now that I gave them space to move, I need to rig my characters. And rigging is basically like giving them bones so that they can move around. Now Astaha actually came with a rig, and I was super excited about that. But when I opened up the file they sent over, I was shocked to say the least. I couldn't animate with this rig even if I tried, so I had to add yet another thing to the never-ending list of problems. And because I had so many setbacks already, I immediately started animating him for the shots I needed. On the close-up, it showed him stomping his Gigantofoot, and the final animation was just looking a bit dry. One thing that can spice up your animations and ground them in reality is adding a simulation to them. If something as big and fat as Astaha is moving, something's gonna be shaken. And after that, render, composite, done. At this point, I was a bit stuck because I still didn't have my cosplay, but I couldn't really move forward in the video without it. And so I started everyone's favorite part of this, the CG hair. Speaking of hair, this entire time I didn't get a haircut, and it was pretty bad. Now Zhongli has a really unique hairstyle, so I have to make sure I don't mess it up. So I tediously styled the hair and placed everything where it needed to go. And then I shaded— Wait, I'm being told there's an interruption? You want me to read this? No, I'm not. Are you trash at basketball and you can't make CG hair? Well, I can't help you with the first one, but I actually made a tutorial on Patreon where I show you step by step how I make the CG hair in my videos. So if you want results like these, or if you just want to see other tutorials and exclusive content, make sure you click the link in the description and check it out. Now I'm 6'7", so it's hard to find clothes that actually fit me, and I usually just order the largest size in hope. And you can see how that turned out for me. And since the scene was at sunset, I decided to go outside and film when the sun was out, right? Because that would be smart, right? After gaslighting myself for like 30 minutes, I went back inside and came out and filmed the next day, and the lighting was actually perfect, so I did my little dance and got the footage I needed. After Roto, I tracked the footage in Blender so I could put the hair on it, and after a bit of suffering, I got a pretty good match. After that, I added a bit of wind and turbulence to simulate it, to make sure I got a result I was proud of, not like last time. And speaking of last time, the thing that's constantly in the back of my head is living up to the expectations of my last video. My last video went viral on pretty much every single social media platform, and a small part of me feels like if I don't recreate that, then I failed. So here I am, stressing over expectations that I'm literally placing on myself. All that to say, failures will happen, but you have to make sure you're not too hard on yourself. Now the asset was pretty much finished, so I went to go make his energy shield. Now the energy shield had three main components: the shield, the rocks inside of it, and the rocks shooting out. To make the shield, I used a cylinder and added a bunch of noise textures to simulate the energy. I'm not leaving that in. To simulate the energy. And then I had to animate 40 individual rocks shooting out and coming back in, which took some time. One big problem with this video is the amount of water that's just everywhere, so I decided to venture once more into Blender's liquid simulation. On this shot, I needed a pillar to fly through the water and hit Osile in the face. I just spent the past 4 hours working on simulations for this shot, and when I went to press render, let me just show you. Each frame is going to take 4.5 hours, and I have 82 frames, and that's 15 days. Now obviously I don't have time for that, so I have to find another way to make this shot possible. Nice. Back to other me. And after tweaking a lot of settings, I was left with this, and it was pretty good. At a certain point, I realized I was gonna need a 3D model of Zhongli. And the good news is I can just take Gojo's clothes off. The bad news is his clothes are insanely detailed, and I struggled making Gojo's clothes. So I hit up my friend Sebastian, who I met through Beat-On, and using the laws of equivalent exchange, I have the clothes. Now this was a huge step, but I had to make sure I give the cloth detailed textures or it would just look flat in CG. Since I've done this quite a few times, I have it down to almost a science. But upon seeing the shot close up, I realized I could benefit from a few extra layers of detail. But the new thing I did was add a hair system to the clothing as well to simulate the little fuzzy fuzz that you see when you're really close up to a shirt. So I added group chat's going crazy. After I did a bit more animating, I did a little bit of magic and the shot was done. At this point, I was running extremely low on time. I had a lot of shots left and only a few days to do them. I've been adapting a lot since my Gojo video, working a lot faster, but I still don't think it's enough for me to actually get through this. And with all that in mind, I decided to just take some time to myself and hit the gym. Just got out of the gym. I was pretty stuck on some problems, so I took a break. I had to get some distance from my work. Came here to clear my head before I get kidnapped, but I go back inside, set my render up, go to sleep, and go back at it with a new perspective the next day.
Bro is 6'7", and he's like, I gotta go back inside so I don't get kidnapped.
Before my final attack, I wanted to get a close-up of Zhongli's eyes because it's super intense and Zhongli has some really cool eyes. So I went outside and blinded myself. But after I got my footage, I took it inside to show Diego and he continued to make fun of my hair some more.
Oh god, wait, I can't look at that right now. I literally looked away. I'm being dead serious.
For this shot, I need to completely change my face and then add CG hair and eyes. I took it into Photoshop and Deeb gave me some tips on how to edit the face. After using the clone stamp and some other tools to fix up the eyebrows and get rid of his eye bags, I added some digital makeup to intensify the eyes and get Zhongli's signature look. After that, I used Epsynth to track all this work back onto the face, and once I had that done, I took it into Blender. And then I tracked his head again, put the hair on, simulated, and boom. Done. After that, I got a CG eye online called Tiny Eye. Then I tracked my eyes and added some render passes so that I could composite the reflections from the world, which included the flowy energy all around me, and that was my favorite part of it. I composited all of this together and I was one step closer to my goal, but not close enough. At this point, I still have a couple shots left, but only a few more days to edit this. Once I finish the actual VFX shots, I still have sound design in this YouTube video. And that's right now, I'm almost out of time entirely. This entire video was a huge learning experience for me. I went through more failures in this short time than I ever would have thought when I took the project. It really took a lot for me to get past the weight of my own expectations and just the pressure from the last video's success. And despite failing over and over again and countless nights spent staying up till 7 AM to get work done, I love making these videos for you guys, and I'm not gonna let a few setbacks stop me from doing that. And after all of that work and over 100 days of waiting, please enjoy the final video.
Take a rest. Leave it to me. I will have order.
Are you okay?